And let me start with the Ghanaian Times for this morning. At 2026 Indaba Confab, come invest in Ghana, Land Minister woos industry captains. GTA CEO cautions hospitality operators against unlawful service charges. I was surprised. I went to buy water somewhere and I was charged COVID-19 levy. I was shocked.
Oh, still?
Yeah, I saw it and I actually protested. I said, no, you can't charge that. This is no longer part of it.
Yeah.
It's important. The call is important. Restore Ghana's Economic Credibility President Task Advisory Group and CSM kills two in Upper West Region. Two arrested for alleged prison drug smuggling. Backpage, government assures completion of Axim C defense project. And GTA launches 2026 National Chocolate Month.
So we need to eat more chocolates,
Yes,
right?
you're in the spirit.
Chocolate, hot chocolate drinks, chocolate itself, chocolate everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Let's eat to support our cocoa farmers.
Yeah.
I'll take you to the Daily Guide now, and the big story on the front page of the Daily Guide is on the Scholarship Secretariat scandal. NIB grants sick in cancer bill after minority protests. Yesterday there was a video on Facebook showing Kofi Owosun Cancer exiting the NIB building, and he was met by some friends and colleagues in that video. And more from the Daily Guide. Our work to win power for NPP. This is former Vice President Baumia, who is now the flag bearer of the NPP, retained flag bearer of the NPP. Now, man grabbed at Kotoka International Airport over cocaine in Gari. That's also a story which is on the front page of the Daily Guide. And yesterday on social media, a lot of people were commenting about it, and they want to know the identity of this man who has been grabbed for attempting to smuggle cocaine in Gari. And Sky Train mentioned in several board meetings. This is a witness in the Sky Train case, which is still in court, and lawyer charged for defrauding US-based nurse. That's the Daily Guardian.
Okay, the overseer for this morning, tension brews at ECG over attempt to renew MD's contract, comes with a photograph of engineer Julius Kwekpena, and described here as the retired ECG MD. Also pictures of John Abdullah Jinapo, Minister for Energy and Green Transition, and engineer Dr. William Amuna, who is ECG board chairman. GRE dismisses price hike fears over new VAT Act. ADB holds annual Thanksgiving service, reaffirms commitment to strategic vision, and MIF strengthens partnerships and promotes sustainable mining at African Mining Indaba 2026. Ghana to begin licensing medicinal and industrial cannabis cultivation, NACOC, and Commonwealth Council MEDA explore investment opportunities in Ghana's agric sector. Okay, I think I've got the Business and Financial Times also. Let me just share that with you this morning. And the Business and Financial Times says regulators push bank listings to anchor domestic capital. GRE debanks price hike claims of new VAT regime. Government to establish independent fiscal council to strengthen post-IMF economic oversight, and MIF deepen strategic mining partnerships at 2026 Mining Indaba. And illegality at sea, 90% of fishers register declining catches, all here on the front page of the Business and Financial Times. And back page, Olam Agri host GIPC CEO ahead of pasta factory inauguration, and Richard Osei Enim joins Ishmael Yamson and Associates as senior partner to lead AI global practice. Okay, let's get into the online news. Okay, yes, let's get into that.
The National Enquirer and the National Enquirer NPP Cocoa Board hypocrisy over 5.3 million bags of cocoa undelivered in 2023-2024 season. This morning we'll break down the cocoa issues for listeners to understand what it really is, and hope for cocoa farmers as government announces sweeping cocoa sector reforms. DVLA boss empowers Ghanaian youth with over 1,000 jobs, and Lands Minister reaffirms Ghana's commitment to stable, transparent mining. Pre-mix Secretariat roll out reforms to safeguard community development funds. That's also a story on the front page of the National Enquirer. And GRA clarifies new VAT regime, assures public of price hikes. I've seen the GRA Facebook page post some infographics on tax calculations, and one of them was interesting to me. If you go and buy a radiator for a 207 Benz bus, they break it down, the cost of the radiator, the taxes you have to pay, and everything. They are trying to educate us to know our taxes and to know what we pay for, and so I think they are doing well. I think they are doing well with the tax education.
Sure. And myjoyonline.com this morning, if you get to myjoyonline.com, it says NDC promised to govern differently. That must start inside the party, says Inusa Fuseni. Also on myjoyonline.com this morning, Mahama reprimanded Baba Jamal. NDC says code of conduct is already working, and description of conduct as inappropriate is based on NDC's constitution, bande on vote buying claims. Then this one here says Anas wins 7-0 as Supreme Court unanimously rejects attempt to reverse judgment in his favor. Okay, if you get to the story, it says the 7-member panel of the Supreme Court has dismissed an application brought by a businessman, Adolf Tete J, seeking to overturn a judgment entered in favor of renowned investigative journalist Anas Arimi Anas over a land dispute. In dismissing the application by an overwhelming 7-0 unanimous decision, the court said, having considered the motion, affidavits both in support and opposition, statements of case of counsel for both sides, and heard oral submissions of lawyers of the parties, it found that the application did not meet the minimum threshold for a review of the decision of the ordinary bench of 5 justices delivered in November last year. Okay, so that's it for myjoyonline.com this morning. And citynewsroom.com says 7 in 10 Ghanaians worried about rising food prices, according to the IEA. And also, MTN Ghana sets benchmark across group, plans $300 million investment in 2026. While Rollins, Achampong, and other regimes retained Kotoka Airport name. And finally, Ayawaso East by-election vote buying controversy won't affect Baba Jamal. That's according to the NDC. And you know, Kojo, this whole bit about vote buying, yesterday I made the point that, look, you know, let's deal with vote buying.
Yeah.
But in dealing with vote buying also, we must be very tactical. Let's not just get up and say, oh, we're dealing with vote buying, we've annulled elections. No. There are people who look to selling their votes, who look forward to selling their votes in every election. There are people who want to be delegates because they just know that by virtue of being delegates, they are going to enjoy. And in fact, I can tell you that there were some people in the coming days, as the NPP and NDC all try to reorganize, you'd have a lot of people wanting to be delegates. I mean, constituency or polling station, they would go there, and the reason they are going there is because they become delegates. And you hear the political parties promising, for instance, that, oh, if you vote for me and I come into office, I will give you a chance to bring someone to come and work and all of that.
Yeah.
All of that amounts to vote buying. You see, the promises we make every now and then. So in dealing with vote buying, let us get to the root of it. Okay? Yes, let us punish. But let us also take steps aimed at discouraging people from selling. So that when you come and say, oh, I'm going to give you this or that, the person says, I'm not going to take it. But the moment there are people making demands all the time, you would find politicians, unfortunately, paying for these. Because what normally happens most of the time is that they say in politics, you don't use your money, you use somebody's money. And that in itself is where the problems begin from.
Yeah.
Because you're using somebody's money, and that person's money, you get into office and you have to pay back. So let's have a national conversation. Yes,
and so you have to find all sorts of ways to steal money from the national coffers to pay this money back.
Of course, and
because your 25,000 Ghana cedi salary and allowances cannot pay for the millions you've spent.
No.
And so people are stealing money because we've enabled this.
Yeah, and many of these people, get into look, as Elvis Efriye Ankara said, Because a lot of the corruption you find is linked to campaign financiers.
Exactly.
That's where the corruption starts from, the campaign financiers. Look, because they supported you, so they come back, they want to make their money. And if they make the money, they're going to support you in the next election. So you give it to them. And that's the beginning of our problem. Now, the Ghanaian Times center spread, GTA CEO cautions hospitality operators against unlawful service charges. So we're told that the Deputy Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Tourism Authority in charge of operations, Samson, has cautioned restaurants, fast food outlets and food joint operators against imposing mandatory service charges on customers, stating that such charges are not sanctioned by Ghanaian law. He explained that while hospitality operators were required to charge and remit statutory taxes and levies, including VAT, the National Health Insurance Levy, and the Get Fund levy, and the Tourism Levy, service charges remain a discretionary business practice and must not be presented as government-imposed taxes. Mr. Sampson gave the caution at a stakeholder engagement meeting organized by GTA for operators in the hospitality, food and catering sector as part of efforts to promote transparency, regulatory compliance, and consumer protection. And he said the GTA, established under the Tourism Act 2011 Act 817, was mandated to regulate tourism enterprises and ensure that sustainable development of tourism industry both locally and internationally. And the authority was regulating the food and beverage enterprises and entertainment facilities such as restaurants. Okay, so don't pass illegal charges as service charges. And I think it's a good one. For those that are still charging COVID-19 levy, please, I don't know how you're going to give that to government because the government has stopped collecting the COVID-19 levy. So please, don't charge that. Okay?
Indeed.
Yeah.
Now let me take you to my Joe Online, the story of Kofi Ofosun Cancer. Here, Kofi Ofosun Cancer granted 500,000 Ghana cedi bail, court appearance cancelled. The story says former Chief Executive Officer of the National Entrepreneurship and Innovation Program, Kofi Ofosun Cancer, has been granted bail in the sum of 500,000 Ghana cedis following his arrest and planned arraignment over allegations of publishing false news. He is no longer required to appear in court as earlier scheduled for Thursday, February 12, 2026. And he had been formally charged by the NIB in connections with claims he made during a radio discussion about alleged irregularities in the award of government-funded scholarships for studies abroad. The Bureau's investigations into the matter are ongoing. And this is one of the stories that have gotten a lot of people worried when it comes to rule of law and how we intend to manage investigations and some of these things. And there are lots of people who believe that this arrest was unnecessary and the approach by the NIB was unnecessary. And the news is that he's now been released and he's not going to go to court today. Winston.
Great. So he's been charged because he couldn't provide any evidence about the allegation. Okay, it'll be important for us to know. But look, NIB, okay. When somebody, and this attempt, go and investigate something, and the next thing you do is to grab the person, throw the person into custody, it's unnecessary. If you go and the person cannot provide evidence, and you think that he's done something wrong, he's engaged in any crime per our laws, charge the person, take the person to court. It's as simple as that. This whole, putting the person into jail as if you're punishing people, no, that's unacceptable. Now, come invest in Ghana. Lands Minister, whose industry captains is here. So, the Lands and Minister of Lands and Natural Resources, Emmanuel Amakofibua, has urged investors to turn their attention to Ghana, touting the country as a secure environment for mining investments across the globe. According to him, the country's political stability and tested democratic credentials make it an ideal destination for profitable business within the mining and extractive industry. Okay, so that's Emmanuel Amakofibua there. But the overseer this morning, Kojo, says tension brews at ECG over attempt to renew MD's contract. And we're told that tension is reportedly escalating within the Electricity Company of Ghana as members of staff raise concerns over an alleged move to renew the contract of the acting managing director, Julius Kpekpena. A process they say is being pursued without transparency, and according to the concerned staff, the proposed contract renewal is allegedly being pushed by the ECG board in close coordination with the sector minister John Jinapo, a development that has triggered an ease across various departments of the power distribution company. So ECG, they say the acting managing director is reached the age of retirement, and so he should move on. According to these concerned staff members, he should move on, and his contract should not be renewed. Well, interesting. But still in the overseer, GRA dismisses price hike fears over new VAT Act. A story by Sandy Yabuanoche says the Ghana Revenue Authorities responded to concerns raised by the Abosokan Spare Part Traders Association over the new VAT regime, insisting the reforms would not lead to higher prices when properly applied. This follows threats by the Abosokan traders to embark on a strike, arguing that implementation of the VAT will increase consumer prices, distort competition, and impose an unfair burden on spare part dealers. But the GRA, in a statement dated Monday, February 10, explained that the claims reflect a fundamental misunderstanding of how the new VAT system operates, stressing that the shift from 4% flat VAT scheme to a standard VAT system with an effective 20% rate should rather reduce costs for traders. And they say the change from 4% flat rate to 20% will result in increased prices, will not result in increased prices, the authority stated, explaining that under the old flat regime, traders paid input VAT of 21.9% on every purchase and could not deduct it, making it part of the business cost. Under the new system, input VAT of 20% is fully deductible, allowing traders to claim it back and price goods based on a lower cost base. To demonstrate this, the GRA cited an example using a 500 base price with 20% profit margin, noting that the final price to the consumer under the new regime will be 720 compared to 760 under the old flat rate system. Okay.
Yeah. And GUTA is also unhappy with the new VAT implementation. They also want the flat rate system restored, and they are telling GRA if GRA doesn't restore that, they will hit the streets and they will bare their teeth at the government and GRA.
Yeah, and you see that's why the point is being made about the ability to deduct input tax. Okay, so former Finance Minister Honorable Seth Tekwe says, "Good morning, Winston. GUTA at it again. The executive should encourage their members who operate above the turnover threshold to register and get A, input tax credits on purchases and expenses, and B, refunds from the VAT regime, zero rating exports." So that's some advantage that they can have.